Hi, today we are going to cover automatic differentiation in PyTorch. Automatic differentiation, or Autograd, is one of the key features why you want to use a deep learning framework as opposed to coding everything by hand, because it allows you to focus primarily on the forward mode where you go and build a neural network and then essentially have all the machinery take care of optimizing the parameters that led to this output. So let's start with something very simple, namely, function that's just f of x is sine of x. So the first thing we need to do is we need to import a few libraries, as always. Some plotting libraries, PyTorch and other stuff. And once we're done with this, we can then define our function. So f of x, it just returns torch of sine of x. And then I'm defining a vector that goes from -5 to 5, precision 0.1, and I'm going to plot this function. And very unsurprisingly, this draws a sine function. Okay, nothing particularly exciting to be seen here, except that, now we've drawn the sine function in PyTorch. The interesting thing happens when I go and want to compute a gradient. So the first thing I need to do is I actually need to tell PyTorch, x is a variable for which I might want to compute the gradient. So I need to set the flag requires grad. This internally turns on compute graph tracking for the gradient. But if I print out the gradient, nothing can be found yet. Mind you, if I were to invoke d2l plot of x and f, this would fail. So let's actually check this out, what happens. Then it will fail. And it will fail and basically tell me that you need to detach things and so on, and that the NumPy conversion doesn't work. To make a long story short, what happens is that in this case, basically PyTorch doesn't know exactly what to do when it has to convert things into NumPy, because on the one hand it's trying to track all the operations that happen on X, but at the same time it cannot do this in NumPy because NumPy doesn't have that functionality, and so it just throws an error. Okay, let's undo this. The next thing that we're going to do is we're now going to evaluate f of x again, because retroactively you can figure out what happened to y before, so now we actually can log all of that. So we compute y as f of x, and then we want to compute the gradient df of x dx. Since this is scalar, we just go and sum all the entries and compute the gradient. Let's see what happens. And very unsurprisingly, now we get the sine function and its derivative, the cosine function. There's something slightly funky going on here. Namely, I have to invoke this detach operation. So this detach operation is exactly what led to the failure of the computation before. Because before, when we tried to just plot x and y, basically PyTorch and then NumPy didn't know what to do with this variable. Whereas if I detach things, then NumPy knows that it doesn't have to track, or PyTorch rather knows that it doesn't have to keep on tracking anything that derives from it, and therefore it can happily pass it on to NumPy, and that's exactly what we see. Okay, let's see what happens next. So in order to do this, we probably want to look at a slightly simpler problem such that we can actually print out all the values and analyze them. So I'm going to print the function y is x squared over 2, and okay, so here's the function defined as I would, and now I go and just print the values, and the entries as I intended them are 0 up to 4, because that's exactly how I defined it. The values in y, that's just 1/2 x squared, so we go all the way up to 8, because that's 4 squared is 16 over 2. And the gradient, of 1/2 x squared is of course just x, so the gradient has to match the original term. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I could have done this on paper, but for more general things, of course, that's no longer so easily possible. But there's something interesting happening. So PyTorch actually goes and keeps on accumulating gradients that it finds with regard to x. That's useful if, for instance, you want to take an update step in your weight vectors only after you've invoked multiple loss functions. And so this is a big convenience factor. Now, in order to reset this, you actually need to reset the gradient again. And you just do this by invoking xgrad 0, and that just zeroes it out. So to show explicitly what happens is I'm nuking the gradient, and then I'm computing a very simple function that just sums up all the entries. So the gradient of that should be 1 throughout. And then I invoked, this entire operation again, and I look how the gradient changes. And as we see, the gradient doubles in the second operation. And if I invoked it a third time, then it would, of course, triple and so on. Now, we talked quite a bit about this detaching the computation, and so let's actually look at what happens there in detail. Okay, so we again nuke our gradient, y is x squared. We detach now the gradient from this graph, so we get u, and then we compute z, and now we can go and compute the derivative of z with regard to x, right? And then we can find out what happens. So first of all, to make sure that this is actually sensible, look at how z is computed. Z is u times x. So there is an explicit x dependency in there, right? And we would expect that the gradient with regard to x equals u. And lo and behold, yeah, that actually happens. Now, of course, since the computation all the way up to y was still being tracked, I can compute the gradient of y with regard to x, and I get 2x. Note again, I had to nuke the gradient before I compute the new one, because otherwise I'll get the sum between this and that operation all summed together into the aggregate gradient. So really keep that in mind, because otherwise it's such a fiendishly easy way how you can introduce bugs into your code that are really hard to find later. Okay, now this is all still pretty straightforward. Where things get really exciting is that you can actually go and compute gradients through the compute graph itself through control flow. So this is probably one of the world's most stupid Python programs. It does nothing any particularly useful. All it does is it just computes b is 2 times a, and then as long as that vector it doesn't have a length less than 1,000, it just keeps on doubling its length. Okay, it's pretty useless. And by the way, if all the entries in that vector sum up to something that's greater than 0, then it does nothing else. But if it's less than 0, it multiplies it by 100 just for good measure, right? So if you went through all this control flow, you can see that actually the output of this program is just the input times some scalar. And it's just that that scalar is some power of 2 and then possibly times 100. Okay, so this is, as said, a really useless piece of code, but this is really just to explain that there's a while loop and an if then else. And nonetheless, we will be able to compute the control flow and thus the gradient. Now, you might ask, can't I just do that beforehand? Well, it turns out you can't, because the control flow will look different for different arguments. And it would be really, really hard to keep track of this explicitly. But computers are pretty good at it, so let's have computers do it. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm going to compute some random vector a, and then I'm going to compute the outcome of this, which, you know, is some ridiculously stupid number. Okay, not particularly useful, but okay, we get this. As promised, this is a pretty useless piece of code. Now, if we compute the gradient though, so d backward, and we print this, well, we'll see that the gradient of d with regard to a is 2048. What this tells us is that it just kept on multiplying things, well, 2 to the 11 times, right? So 2 to 11 times, so to get 2 to the 11, and that's the output. Now, if you watch closely what was going on before, you can check that a times the gradient of f with regard to a should be f, because it's a linear function, right? So for any linear function that happens to be the case. And yes, as we would expect, this happens. Obviously, if it wasn't true, then I probably wouldn't have put it on the slides in the first place. But to drive home the message, what really happens here is that I computed the gradient with regard to non-trivial control flow. And since this is all nicely being tracked through Python in PyTorch, I can easily go and compute the gradients and everything in the end. And so this is why Autograd is really useful.